first off, I'll do like a scratch drum track. I'll have the 808 going just like whatever on a 4/4 beat or whatever. This is saying we're just gonna make like whatever, even say house or techno track, doesn't really matter, right? I just get that 4/4 going, and then I'll also put a drum rack in Ableton as well. You know, have a little extra something else going for later on. John was here, intro. We listened to some 808 State and Gerald, and I'm like, yo, we should try to like make some like Gerald style, like funky stuff, but with some acid, like, you know, like freaked out shit. You know, we got the scratch drum track, so like this is how like whatever I would do it. So you get the drums going, whatever. And then like I programmed some like bass lines in here on the 303. We can throw this on, see what's on. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be good, but let's see. Cool little thing, right? So, you know, I would just like get this kind of like loop going. Again, like, it's nothing spectacular. But, you know. Yeah, and then like again, like whatever, we got the 727 in here, like just like, you know, see what else is in here. I know there's probably it's like a little more like Gerald style. I just like run everything basically like, yeah, that's like just the classic way. Trigger out, you know, it's going for the 101 when I was doing that. So it was like, I don't know what it was on, cowbell or whatever, or accents. You know, you put in your notes there, you make your bass line or melody like that. Just like very, just
really back to the basics.
That's really it. There's no real secrets. Effect eats up all the kicks, so you gotta be careful. Just a little beat track for mixing or whatever you want. There's so many different styles within the house genre one can work in, right? Something like that's just like a beat track, right? You could like develop that if you really wanted to, and you could like really make the drum programming dynamic and make it like a real DJ tool. And it could just be those drum beats or whatever with the flanger, you know, and you could make something a nice 5-minute DJ tool out of it or whatever. But obviously that's just like those patterns aren't too engaging, right? If you're gonna make like a beat track, that's like, you got to think about the context why you're making it, right? Because a beat track is usually for like DJs to like layer under other tracks, spice up some other songs, and to slam in the mix and slam out of the mix. So on a track like that, supposing I was gonna like really make a track like that, I would first off making patterns that made sense together, because those are kind of just random, right? Because they have these segments here, so you can go. You put all your patterns on the different segments. Then I would, like try to make the drum programming make some sense and also make it engaging. Do dropouts, do fills, throw some claps in, take some claps out, hi-hats out, hi-hats in. You want to make it dynamic. You also don't want to make it too crazy if it's just a little beat track, you know? For something like that, yeah, that's it. Just get a real structure and get something, you know, for people to mix. And yeah, just make something hot for the DJ to play, basically. The stuff I'm working in, I'm trying to do like stripped down stuff, old school, like Chicago, New York, darker things. You know, I'm not doing like many like samples or anything like that. Like, you know, KDJ and Theo and them really were MPC guys working around a lot of samples at the beginning. Big disco samples from back in the day with the Chic sample or the Bob James samples and stuff like that. I like the classic old Chicago, old like New York style, like Burrell, you know, machine stuff, DX100, big DX100 bass lines, 808 stuff, dark synths, you know, heavy duty strings, creating the tension and drama. That's just me personally, you know, people working whatever. And then And then you talk about acid stuff, right? Because there's so much acid stuff out there, and there's so many subgenres of acid and this and that. It's been beaten to death by everybody and everyone. So depends on the producer, who it is. All that stuff doesn't appeal to me personally. It's very specified. What I'm interested in is very, take everything and really get it down to the bone gristle and like the real subtle nuances of the music, right? So like if you're gonna work in a certain way, you really got to learn the genre and what you want to focus on and kind of make your own. Doing Heartstopper, it was a very long process. It was like from 2019 up till September or so of 2022. I made tons of tracks. I'm talking 30, 50, 30, 40, somewhere, not all finished, but like sketches and quite developed stuff. And then I took the ones that I liked the best, or I thought fit together the best, or represented what I wanted to do. Yeah, I had the idea I wanted to make a record that represented like the old school house sound that I'm into and that like a lot of people in my crew are into, whether it's Melvin or Jason, or Delroy. We've always been making that stuff, we've always been playing that stuff, but I hadn't personally worked on like true house stuff, I would say, since we did the Two Dogs in a House project, and that's looking on nearly like 10, 12 something years ago. So I didn't really get to focus on that, and I had the time and I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I was like listening to a lot of old Hardy tapes and BMX and Farley and just Marcus Mix, and then like old Steve Hurley and all that old Chicago, and then also some of the New York, the old Blue Jeans stuff, the dark Code Blue stuff, which is like some of the best New York house music there is, in my opinion, as far as like machine stuff is concerned, those samples. And yeah, I just got to it, and like it was a long process because I learned a lot along the way. You stumble a lot along the way, you fail a lot along the way, but that's why it took four damn years. But in the end, yeah, that's like basically what it was. I wanted to get like my version of like the classic stuff, and like certain sounds I want to be in there, whether it's something that sounded like an old unreleased Hardy tape edits, I had like some tracks like that, or whether it sounded more like proto Detroit stuff that like edges on new wave, Depeche Mode sounding stuff mixed with like the big 727 with the big reverbs, the SPX, like Saunderson style, where they're using big reverbs on the 727. On the early Transmat stuff and the KMS stuff. That's something that always sticks out because it's like funky, but it's still dark. And like that's something I wanted to end up doing. So I did that a little bit on the album. And like, yeah, it's basically, when I think of house music too, I think about the DJs that played it. And it's incorporating all these different like styles, right? So it's like when you hear Old Jamie Principle, you're also hearing like Italo disco and that, right? Like they're taking kind of bass lines from some like Italo, like Electra or something like that. Or if you're hearing Jesse Saunders, also a lot of new wave influence on it. And like that's, to me, what house music was. It was like mixing the disco with the new wave, with the new machines that the guys were learning to use then, whether it was a 303 or whatever else, drum machines and synths. And like, this amalgamation of many different genres, and it becomes completely psychedelic, right? For an early primitive form of dance music, it's probably the most psychedelic stuff out there. And I'm not even talking about the acid stuff too. When you listen to the, Marcus Mix, of course not everyone knows him. Of course, a lot of people do, but like on a wide scale of like what's known house music, he was like pretty underground and stuff when he came out. That stuff, and there's not so much Marcus acid stuff, but his stuff was like bugged out. Tons of flanger, a lot of vocal, like tweaked out vocals. You gotta wonder, like, what was the impetus for these guys just getting in there and making this crazy like machine music, especially because it's all coming out of disco as well. So like after disco, then they get on the machines, then they're like bugging out, you know, seeing the DJs, and yeah, it's just they were experimenting. It seemed like very magical times.
They're caught up, tangled in this trap of love.